Are we good, Trisha?
Yeah.
Almost. We're good to go? Okay. Well, we are back with Goaldigger and kicking off the end of this week and our weekends with the incredible Trisha Tate, who is principal as well as outsourced CFO and founder of The Art of Money Matters. And by the way, so much more that we're going to hear about. She has an ebook that you can download. She has a book that is coming out and is available for pre-order. And she happens to be one of our incredible luminary members. So welcome, Trisha, to Goaldigger.
Ah, thank you for having me, Kate. I
This,
love this. I appreciate this.
this is so exciting because some of the things, Trisha, you and I have been talking about over the past year in particular are small business owners and micro businesses in particular for women. We're going to get into all of that, how we support them, how they can pay themselves more, how they can hire people, and how many women have pivoted, but also when they are a business owner, how they actually pivot to have a much more successful, financially profitable business. But before we do all that, and we only have 30
Mm.
minutes, you have a very interesting background yourself and what led you to starting your own business and obviously now writing not one book, but two books, launching a course, a 7-week course in March. Can you give us a little bit more about your to hear? And I know our viewers and listeners love to hear too.
Wonderful. So, Kate, thank you for having me on. I am a finance professional. I've been a finance professional for 21 years. I'm a self-proclaimed math nerd. I love spreadsheets. And the first half of my financial career, I spent on Wall Street. So I worked at Merrill Lynch. I worked at Citigroup. I did all the things I was supposed. I went to business school, first at undergrad at Wharton, and then for my MBA at the Fuqua School of Business. So I followed the track that you're supposed to follow as a finance person. And in the background, I've always had a passion for something that seems unconventional, which is dance. And being a first generation American, for all of you who are first generation American, your parents may or may not think that dance is a real career path. So I followed the conventional math, which turned into a finance career, but dance never left me alone.
Mm.
And I really believe that if you have a purpose in life, you certain gifts and talents and skills were built inside of you from the beginning. You're meant to fulfill a purpose and all the things that you're supposed to be in life. So dance would never leave me alone. And I continued to take dance classes all the while. And so somewhere in 2009, where when the market fell apart, I lost my last corporate job, and I was like, what am I going to do with myself? There weren't any jobs available. And I was part of this program that introduced people formerly of bank and broker dealer companies to what were considered non traditional finance jobs. They were consulting engagements at startups, at new tech, green media, and not for profits. My first consulting engagement was with a dance company, Martha Dance, Martha Graham Dance Company. And it was there that I learned that behind the scenes of a performing arts company or just a company with a smaller budget, that there are accounting issues and finance issues that are very different from what you experience on the corporate side. And
Mm-hmm.
that was my first taste of quote unquote small business finance and accounting. So I decided to follow that path and discover it a little bit. And that eventually took me to where I am today as an outsourced CFO. But while I was discovering that path from 2010 for about 5 years, I allowed myself to pursue the thing I had been passionate about all the time, which was dance. And I lived the life of a dancer in New York, hustling to auditions, teaching Pilates on the side. I taught Pilates at Equinox for 2 years because I loved that modality. And I eventually got a Broadway show. I was on the tour of the Tony Award winning musical Fela, and I continue also to dance with a company in New York called the Forces of Nature Dance Theater. So I have found a way to pursue the sort of technical side of who I am
Mm.
and the creative side of who I am. And for a very long time, and I say this to your audience or any business owner out there who is sort of contending with this technical and creative brain, sometimes you feel afraid to share certain parts of your life with the rest of the world. But
Hmm.
it actually informs all of who you are and all of what makes you different and all that you bring to your clients. And so now I'm not afraid to show up as a finance person who's also passionate about dance. And I'm actually infusing that in the rebranding of my company. So that's my history.
All right. So there's so much in there. I want to go back to you're on this traditional path. And did I hear you correctly that you went to Duke for your business degree?
Yes, I sure
Okay.
did.
I don't know. I don't think I knew that, and I'm very
I
excited.
know that you're a turn. I know what you are. I know what you are, Miss Maryland, University of Maryland.
Yeah, so that's a whole other story, but I will forgo that. Even though we're no longer in the ACC, I went to Maryland when we were, and Duke is a big rival. So for anyone listening, but I have very good friends that went to Duke as well. I'll reserve those nicknames for later. So
Mhm.
so you're on this traditional path. You're working in finance, and we share that because I spent a long career in finance, as you know. Financial crisis happens, you lose your job, and now you're like, I'm going in this non-traditional roles for people formerly in finance. At that point, right? Because you had this path, you're on this path, you're first generation American. What was going through your mind around, is this a pivot? And pivot probably wasn't even a word that we were using back then. But what was going through your mind as, holy, bleep, this is all new to me. What's going to happen?
So before I lost my job,
Yeah.
I was going through a personal, I don't want to call it a crisis,
Mm-hmm.
but I call it the tectonic plates of life were shifting, and I
Okay.
didn't know what was happening. My second year in business school, I was teed up to like be part of every leadership council. And at this time, I had like short permed hair, which is supposed, the quote unquote, what you're supposed to look like in
Right.
corporate, right? I didn't have this
Right.
short colored hair. And I wasn't happy. I was applying for jobs that I wasn't happy. I already had my Citigroup offer,
Yep.
but I wasn't happy. And I was like, I'm going back to corporate. I'm going back to Wall Street. I didn't really want to. And I didn't know how to get off of the treadmill. I did not know how to get out of the rat trap that I had created for myself. And while I was in the second year of business school in North Carolina, there was a dance legend in North Carolina that I got familiar with, and he had a dance company and he had auditions. And I said, what if I went for those auditions? And I actually went for the audition and I got it. And I was dancing with this community based company for a year after I graduated business school. But I secured my offer, I deferred the offer to Citigroup. And that period from 2006 to 2007, I cut my hair off. I danced every day full time. I was making pittance, like nowhere near the six figures.
Right.
And I knew I had this offer I was coming to, and that reawakened something in me. I was like, I have to dance. And so while I was working at Citigroup in '07 to '09, I joined this company in New York. I was going to dance classes in the evening. And as a finance person, you don't leave the job until like 9, 10 o'clock.
Right. Right.
I was leaving at 6 because I wanted to make a dance class and a rehearsal. I was just, I was not happy
Right.
internally, and something had to give. And the universe gave me a pit, December 2009. And I'm
Right.
like, okay, now what do I do?
Right.
Now that I have this pink slip, what do I do? But it was already there. The answers were there. I just didn't know how to trust it. Now I know that whenever the tectonic plates of life shift, something else is happening and I need to move into that place. And
Yeah.
so what do I need to do to ground me? And if you guys are spiritual people, I am. What do I need to do to ground me for whatever is about to come, even though I don't know what it is, but it may be something amazing?
Well, the tectonic plates are certainly shifting over this past 2 years for many women, as we know, that have been disproportionately impacted by the pandemic and continue. Whether they left the workforce, their businesses struggled. It's been a nightmare for a lot of women, right? And it's been a struggle, and those tectonic plates continue to shift as whatever return to the office. On the positive side, we're seeing, even despite the impact on small business, particularly women and women of color owned businesses, even more, the number of women starting small businesses has actually increased from 2019 to now. A big part of that is necessity entrepreneurs, right? I've lost my job. I've had to give up my job. I couldn't do the full, I go back into the office because of whatever family situation, et cetera. But within that, we have to create opportunities to support those small businesses. And you and I were talking about this earlier, but I want to read a couple of stats to kind of dig in, Trisha, to what you're doing now, working with small businesses and micro businesses. So small businesses actually account for more than half of net job creation since 2000. Okay. There are 99% of America's businesses are small businesses. 88% have fewer than 20 employees, and nearly 40% have under 100,000 in revenue. Now, that's in general. When you look at the numbers for women, those numbers actually rise for those that have fewer than 20 employees. But that number, that percentage of those that have under 100,000 in revenue also rises. So we're seeing great trends. We're also seeing that 20% of all small businesses actually employ people, and 80% are non-employers. So solopreneurs, freelancers, contractors, right? Incredible statistics. So if you're watching, this is a massive market and opportunity for not just big businesses to support, but businesses, Trisha, like yours. So let's dive into a little bit about, number one, what you're doing around your course, which I love, the Path to Financial Freedom. And this is targeted at business owners, small business owners. Your book, Dancing with Numbers, and just more importantly, how small business owners, again, particularly women and women of color, can wrap their heads around paying themselves more and actually hiring people. So where do you want to start?
So you've shared a lot, and I believe those statistics. So in my business, I sort of thought about business owners in three buckets, because I've been, CEO of the Art of Money Matters, sort of CFO, in financial consulting for 5 years, right? So I've seen the gamut of businesses. The client, and I speak on this a lot, at different stages in growth in your business, you need different people. Not every business owner needs an outsourced CFO. Once they're at like a growth stage, and usually that's like the $500,000, $1 million mark, then they start to need a team of people, not just a CPA and a bookkeeper, but someone with more strategic insights, right? And that's where I provide a one-on-one, do it for you, outsourced CFO services model, right? There is the next tier, which is where a lot of business owners live. And they've been in business 3 years, 5 years, even 10 years. And they're in this sort of six-figure space. So they have their clients, they have their target audience, they have traction. But there are certain issues that come up. And I want to also say, unfortunately, a lot of women entrepreneurs live there too.
Right.
And from the, I think it was the 2019 American Express State of the Women-Owned Business Report, right? Yep. Less than 2% of women in general get to $1 million in revenue. Yep. So we're in that six-figure space, and even less so for women of color, right? And so when I interview and I speak to people that are business owners that have been in business a while and they are in the six-figure space and kind of stuck in this space, the biggest complaint or issue that I hear, particularly for women, is how can I pay myself more? How can I pay myself consistently a wage that's comfortable enough to leave a legacy, contribute to my household, give back to my community, live the life that I want? And the second issue is I want to be able to afford to hire people or pay the people I have more money. Those are two main issues that they have. And there are many ways to solve that issue, but I have realized that just mathematically, I end up helping them figure out what the business needs to do in order to fund itself and pay them what they want. And a lot of times we think about ourselves as business owners last in the equation. And so the course, The Path to Financial Freedom, the goal there is to help those business owners that I talk about right there in the middle of the pack, six-figure space, that are not paying themselves what they need. They're not paying themselves what they need, nor their employees, right? How to come up with a 12-month growth plan using a mathematical equation, because I love spreadsheets and things, to figure out what the business needs to generate in order to fund all of these things. That's what that 7-week program is. You mentioned micro businesses, which is the third tier, which is where a lot of the starters live, a lot of the solopreneurs, right? The first issue is just being an entrepreneur. Like that by itself is a mind blow, right? All of the different hats that you need to wear. Forget just the financial stuff, right? What I realized is whether you're in that micro starter space or you're in the middle space that I was talking about, or you're even at the $1 million place, if you are not a numbers person and you grew up with money beliefs and money habits that do not serve you in growing a business, you're not going to get to that next level financially, right? And so you're going to have to identify those things, unravel those things, and then you'll be able to really grow your business. Now, there are some people I know that got to $1 million just because they're good at sales. They're good at talking. But now they get to $1 million and they're losing cash. And they're like, why am I losing cash? And they're not allocating their resources because they didn't have that relationship with money and numbers that they needed to have in the beginning. So in order to address the micro market, the necessity entrepreneurs, and even people that run the gamut, I started writing the book Dancing with Numbers because I wanted at a higher level. I firmly believe, not just because I'm a math person and a numbers person, I firmly believe that everybody should be empowered with financial knowledge and savvy. I firmly believe that you can have a positive relationship with numbers. I firmly believe that. And I feel like the first step to that is identifying what your money beliefs are and money habits are that you probably picked up in childhood from your parents that don't serve you in life and in entrepreneurship. And entrepreneurship gives you the opportunity to contend with it, because no matter how long that you're an entrepreneur, at some point you're going to bump into having to deal with your numbers and your financials. And entrepreneurship gives you the opportunity. And the micro businesses who just started, they may not have realized this, but eventually they stay on long enough. If they stay on this journey long enough, they're going to have to do that. And so the book Dancing with Numbers, the attempt is to get people in a harmonious relationship with their numbers by taking them through these steps to get to this higher place.
And Trisha, one of the things that I hear often, leaving a very long career in banking and then now an entrepreneur myself, self-funded, right? Which is more as to that American Express state of women business owners, more than 70% of women self-fund, bootstrap, stiletto strap their business. A lot of that out of necessity, but a lot of that is I want control. I want to own my own destiny and create a legacy. a lot of the women that we work with at Luminary, the business owners or those that are thinking about business, don't look at numbers, right? We even speak to lots of business owners that are 15, 20 years in, and they have never done a financial plan or projections. What are you, as you think about whether it's the starter, as you talk about, or all the, sort of, hey, I've had my business for years and I'm thinking about taking it to the next level. Where does someone start with this? Because it can be overwhelming, and you don't like to look at the numbers because you're like, wait, I should be making more. Wait, what's happening? Where's all that money going? What are some tips that, obviously buying the book, taking the course, but give me a tip or two that you would share with someone that's just I don't even know where to begin.
Yes, buy the book. You can pre-order the book until tomorrow. It'll be published in September. But in the book, first few chapters, I'm so serious about this. You can go to 10 financial literacy courses. You can speak to how many ever CPAs, CFOs. But if you haven't started going through what you're contending with, what your current money beliefs are, and what are those things that you feel about money and what they're tied to, if you don't start unfolding that, it will prevent you from being open to changing and shifting in your business. Gotcha. I have had so many people that know, and there is actually a practice that I learned that I interviewed one of like the creators of the practice for the book. It's called financial therapy. And there's a financial therapy association, and it dives into this. And I know it kind of feels like woo-woo money mindset. It's not even, a lot of the conversations that people have about money or issues they have with money has nothing to do with money itself.
Right.
So I would say that would be the first step. And then the second thing is to find someone who will walk you through what are some of the key data points that you need to track on a regular basis. You don't have to understand KPIs and go all the way down the rabbit hole on that. But what are some measures that you can look at? Your sales, if you're a retailer online, you could go into Shopify, look at your sales, look at the number of visitors that come, how many people click to purchase and pay. If you are a contractor, look at your invoices on a regular basis, make sure you're sending invoices, make sure people are paying you on time. How long does it take people to pay you? Because that can also help you figure out what are your cash flow needs. Look at your bank account on a regular basis. It doesn't have to be so complicated. Just pick maybe 5 data points that help you feel like you have some understanding of your financial picture, and keep monitoring those data points. Start to hold yourself accountable for tracking the progress. Because even when you get to multi-million dollars and you outsource, your financial management to like a CFO like myself, you still should be looking at 20% of the things that you outsource when you're a CEO, because you want to know what's going on in your business. So those are some of the things I would say. So the first thing is figure out what's blocking you, what money beliefs, what money habits are blocking you. And if you need to go as far as going to financial therapy, you can do that. The second thing I would say is find someone who is savvy with numbers and have them help you pick out 5 to 10 data points that you track on a regular basis. You just look at it. You don't need to study, analyze, or have an MBA to just look at your numbers and see the trends and track your expenses too. That's another one. Absolutely. And then the third thing I would say is continue, even if you feel uncomfortable. Go to the financial management courses. Organizations like SCORE and the small business development centers that are in your cities, all of the places that give financial management for small business owners, pick up what you can, even if you take the books and all the copious notes and you put it on a shelf somewhere. But be responsible and accountable for financial management of your business until you get a place that you can dance with them.
I love it. I love the dancing part, right? I think we, as we have to just get comfortable with being uncomfortable around numbers, right? I remember when I started Luminary and had done all my financial projections, and as someone who self-funded a large physical space and continues to, operate a physical space along with the digital community, et cetera, there's a difference between hiring your first and then the amount of overhead, right? But you have to understand expenses, how much money is not only coming in, right, your revenue, but how much money is going out. And then where is that profitability? Where do you break even? Where do you start really making money? And I love hearing people talk about generational wealth, right? And really, yes, in the United States, as an example, the only real way to create true generational wealth, and UBS, our partners at UBS talk about this all the time, is by owning your own business, right? Because that generational wealth is going to look different by family and by household, right? The other thing that I would just add is this idea of, scaling and growth can look different for it does look different for every business. And so one of the things that you talked about is getting prepared financially to make your first hire. Many solopreneurs, micro businesses will say, well, I can do it all on my own. I can do it all on my own. But what if you don't have to, right? What if you don't have to? And if you can create this path to financial freedom, like your course is teaching, that it actually sets you up to be able to start to staff. You talk a lot, and we've talked a lot about the book, but the course is really designed over 7-8 weeks to take a business owner from that step one all the way through until you are very financially fit around your business numbers, correct?
Yeah, so the path to financial freedom is for the business owner that's been in business for a few years, about 3 years at least, 3 to 5 years, and they're at the place where they realize like they're all in. They've gone through a couple of the different machinations of what it means to be a business owner. They know what their product or service offering is. They know the problem that they're solving. And they're at a place that they realize, wait a minute, I am not necessarily paying myself what I need to from this. And this is my sole way of generating money for myself and for my family and for retirement. Um, but they didn't look at something you mentioned, break even. Like, what do they need? What does the business need to make in order to fund itself and generate the profits so that they can pay themselves what they need? And so I go through this in a group process. So I'd have about 8 to 10 women when I run the program, and we go step by step through these different modules where they are actually using their own numbers in these different modules. And by the end, they come up with this 12-month plan that shows them this is the number of products or services you need to sell in order to generate X number of revenues so that we can cover all of the things. So that's what it is. And in the program, you get some one-on-one time with me so that we dive even deeper into your business. Um, and people have enjoyed it because then I end up because I give a lot
You
and I
do.
have fun. I have fun. I have fun. I give them tough love. We talk real stuff, like what else is going on in the business. I tell them about things that, I find resistance in because entrepreneurship is going to force you into the uncomfortable. So we have a great time, a great conversation, but they're also dealing with numbers and spreadsheets, and they're getting supported, not only me, but their peers in the group. So it's a good experience. And I think that when you're going through something that feels challenging or overwhelming, it's important to have community around it. And I just want to say one last thing. You mentioned about you mentioned entrepreneurship being an opportunity for generational wealth. One of my purposes in life personally is to build a legacy of generational wealth, especially as a first generation American. And this past week, celebrating the life of Martin Luther King Jr.,
Mm.
one of the messages that he said that resonated with me specifically this week, but he said, in order to have we're working towards and fighting towards equality, and that includes economic equality.
Yes.
And what I've realized is, in order for us to bridge, us women, people of color,
Color.
to to bridge this economic gap, wealth gap, entrepreneurship is the opportunity, really, for us to get there. So the more of us that can come through, I didn't intend to be an entrepreneur. Everybody in my family has been in corporate 30, 40, whatever years. I'm probably one of the first entrepreneurs in there. I don't know why I took this crazy journey, but if you can stick with it and you can control your own destiny, I say, let's do it. Let's get it.
That is, and thank you for recognizing that the Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. I think it is very also, I think, relevant for what's happening in the world right now. And so I love that. First of all, I love what you're doing. I think there is so much value in what you've created and what you continue to create. So I put it in the banners. You can follow Trisha at Art of Money Matters across platforms. Definitely LinkedIn with her. She also has an ebook about pivoting your business to profit. So if you're interested, send her a direct message on LinkedIn. And we put up in the chat where to buy pre-order her new book, Dancing with Numbers. Trisha, it's so great to have you. It's always great to see you, even not in the space, but on the Zoom or the screen. And we are looking forward to seeing all of the businesses that you are going to help with this, just the course, the books. And as you said, you give, but hopefully you'll get a little bit of receiving in there too.
Yeah, I receive that. Hard for people to receive. I receive that. I thank you. And kudos to you, Kate, for spotlighting business owners, for having a platform for women entrepreneurs, and for continuing to be all that you are so that you can allow other people to be all that they need to be.
Amazing. Well, have a great weekend. Have a great weekend, everyone. We'll be back with Goaldigger next week. And for those of you that are watching that are not Duke fans, go Terps.
I'm not going to hold that against you. Because I'm a Blue Devil.
Thanks, everyone. Have a great weekend.
Bye.